I know you all can't see me, but hopefully you can hear me. And so, Bobby, if you would read that, and then I'm going to try to shift back and forth on my cell phone to the agenda, and I may get Bobby to also help me read that as we go through it. I think we have a quorum, but I'm not sure. But I'll get. Let me see who's there. David, are you there?
David here.
And Stan, I know you're there, correct?
Roger. Right.
And I heard Mr. Wilson.
Wilson here.
And do I have? Do we have the fourth member here?
Wayne Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, you're here there too. Okay, good. All right. So okay, that makes a quorum, 5 out of 5. And Bobby, would you read the electronic meeting format we have to do? Thanks.
Absolutely. If there's no objection from the members and subject to Executive 78, the Highway Commission has determined that it is necessary that this meeting be held electronically to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Are there any objections to this finding by the board? Hearing none, let the minutes reflect the board has made the determination to conduct this meeting electronically. The meeting is being broadcast on Williamson County TV and YouTube.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Appreciate you doing that. First business that we've had would be, we did take a roll call, so I am assuming that all 5 could hear the message that Bobby said and can hear, and no one is objecting to that. First item of business will be the approval of the minutes that were sent out by Elaine, and so I'll entertain a motion for that, please.
So moved. Wilson, so moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Wilson.
Tyson. Motion and Mr. Seconded. Thank
Wilson
you.
seconds.
Thank you. Any corrections? I hear none, so we'll do a roll call vote. First of all, Mr. Wilson, we'll just go in order. Mr. Coleman?
Coleman, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Wilson, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson?
Tyson, yes.
And Mr. Davis?
Davis, yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. Let the records minutes reflect it passed unanimously. Anyone wishing to, at this time, from the general public that wanted to speak or email, we have no way of doing that. I guess they can hear, but I don't know of anybody that's wanting to speak. Moving it down into the agenda item, I'm flipping through it. Bobby, would you read the first agenda item so I don't have to flip back and forth if you don't mind?
Absolutely. First item we have under new business is Resolution 3-21-10. Resolution amending the 2021 Highway Department budget and appropriating up to $200,000 for road salt revenues to come from unappropriated highway fund balance.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Do I have a motion for that?
Coleman, so moved.
Mr. Cole,
second.
Mr. Tyson seconded. Eddie, comments?
Yes, sir. This is based on salt, like the resolution states, to fill us back up. We used over 4,800 tons the week of Valentine's week, and that's the most we've ever used in a season up here. But yes, it's just full of timber being back up.
So we use 4,800, approximately 4,800 tons, which is almost unbelievable how many pounds that is. Almost, what is that, 10 million pounds? Is that right?
96,000.
96. Woo. No, you got your decimal
96,000.
No, you got your decimal in the wrong place. Mr. Coleman would correct that. If, the
Let's just say it was a bunch of salt.
Yeah. It's a lot of ice cream, isn't it?
That's right.
Eddie, before we go for the vote, I'm sure you've heard nothing but great comments on the work you've done. I have heard over and over how thankful we are for the highway department and the men and that were out there working, salting, scraping. And so thank you very, very much for the work that you did in the unincorporated part of our county. Are we ready to
Thank
vote,
you.
Joe? All right, Mr. Coleman,
Coleman, yes.
Mr. Tyson,
Tyson, yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Wilson, yes.
and Mr. Davis.
Davis, yes.
And Anderson votes yes. Let the records reflect it passed 5-0. And go get some more salt. Bobby, did you
Yep.
second?
Resolution 32111, resolution appropriating and amending various salary line items within the 2020-21 county general solid waste and highway funds, revenues to come from respective unappropriated fund balances.
Thank you. Do I have a get it on the floor?
Coleman moved.
Tyson.
Mr. Coleman,
Second.
motion. Mr. Tyson, second. Eddie, you want to give an explanation?
Yes, what this is, last year, we were supposed to receive a 2% pay increase from the county. Due to the pandemic, that didn't happen. So now, this is just retroactive back to January 1st of 2021, the 2% raise. So recommend approval on this one.
All right. Nina, I think you're on there also. Anything else you want to add to this?
Yes, this has a little bit of a backstory. When our legislators were in special session earlier this year, they carved out some one-time monies for teachers for a 2% pay increase, retro back to January 1st. So, you know, as far as pay increases, we look at the county as a whole. The schools receive something. The mayor said, let's get together a resolution for our employees. And that's where this came from.
Thank you, Nina. Appreciate it. And as we've been, for you all, the information as we're going through the budget process and we're relaying this message to all of our budget department heads, elected officials, and the county commission will this next Monday night. Any questions?
Question, sir. Are commissioners involved in this? Other than voting?
The theory behind it, Mr. Commissioner, is that no, it was for our general employees, full and part-time. Now, if you would like to make a motion that you'd become a full-time employee, you can do that. We will probably find you a spot, but you would have to give up your hours.
You really know how to hurt a guy, don't you?
Mr. Chairman, I told him he needed to understand what was meant by fixed income.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Ready to vote? We'll start with Mr. Coleman,
Coleman, yes.
Mr. Tyson,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Wilson, yes.
and Mr. Davis.
Davis, yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Anderson, he votes yes. Let the records reflect passed unanimously 5-0. Mr. Cook, the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item we have is the annual budget review for the fiscal year 2021-22.
Thank you. Eddie, you want to talk about it? Get it up on the floor.
Yes, sir. This is our budget for this upcoming fiscal year. It is a few changes in there, minor changes. The longevity had a few changes in it. The insurance changed 10%, that's per Wayne Franklin. And we added $4,000 for traffic signals. We have added 4 traffic lights since last year. And of course, the trustee increase, and that's kind of came from Nina, but that's kind of what it is. But other than that, it's pretty a status quo budget as of last year.
Thank you, Eddie. Nina, any comments?
This budget does not have the pay increases in there at this time. The budget committee did approve a 4% pay increase for employees for the fiscal year 21-22. After the Monday night commission meeting, if the resolution is approved for the 2% pay increases, at that time I would add those in and then apply the 4%. So the salary lines on here will be adjusted for the pay changes, which also will affect the benefits. So, and we'll also learn if we have an adjustment in our retirement rate. Actually tomorrow, that meeting's tomorrow. So there will be some changes to this that as it's being presented to you today.
Thank you, Nina. So one comment I do want to make, and then I'll get it up on the floor. Many of you are probably scratching your head about a 10% increase in our property and casualty. Wayne Franklin, as you know, we're self-funded. Last year, when we entered into the pandemic, we froze everything as it was, and that was including all of the increases. So we were doing about a 5% last year. That amount of money was not passed on. So we're doing the 5% this year and making up for the 5% we had last year for property and casualty, workers' comp, the whole package that Wayne oversees from risk management. And so to give you an idea of why that went up so much, it's really a 2-year as opposed to 1 year because of the freeze. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to put this up on the floor. Do I have that?
Coleman, so move.
Thank you, David.
Place a second.
Thank you. Have a proper motion and seconded for the Highway Commission's budget for this year. Are there any questions? I hear none. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Coleman.
Coleman, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson.
Tyson, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Wilson, yes.
Mr. Davis.
Davis, yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Wilson votes yes also. Let the records reflect it passed 5-0 on the budget. Mr. Cook, would you take us on the next item, please?
Absolutely. The next item we have is the Highway Commission District Reports. We can start with Highway Commissioner Coleman.
Yes, there's nothing really new here. I do want to again compliment Eddie and the guys for the road. I heard a lot of comments about how the county roads are even better than the state roads. So do appreciate the only difficulty I had, it was 7 days I couldn't get out of my driveway to get to the road. So, but other than that, it was great. And I do appreciate the mayor taking care of our regular employees as he's always done in the past, and appreciate making that change, and glad to approve that.
Thank you, David. Mr. Tyson, your comments?
No comment, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
I would just like to add to Mr. Coleman's comments that Mr. Hood did an excellent job with his highway crew and keeping the roads open. And unfortunately, I was out on a lot of them, but they were pretty darn clean. And thank you, Eddie.
And Mr.
Yes, sir.
Davis.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
I would echo the same thing. Everybody out here was really pleased with the work the guys did, and they just did a great job.
Thank you. Bobby, is it my comments or is it Mr. Hood next?
Mr. Hood is next.
Thank you. Mr. Hood?
Yes, sir. After last month's meeting, we met Miss Calloway out in Hidden Valley. Mr. Wilson, Chad Collier, Mr. Jerry Rainey all participated and had a good meeting. And we come to a conclusion. She is going to take it back in front of her HOA board and get back with us. We've not heard nothing back from her yet, but it was a very positive meeting that day. Out here at the intersection of Cool Spring and Harper Payable, right above the rescue squad, Collier and them has got that in place. So we're probably Monday, be the 8th. We'll go out and put our 2 message boards out and alert the people for probably a couple of weeks, stating this is going to become a 4-way stop. And that way we'll probably go ahead and put our signs up and just bag them until that time the 2-week period had expired. But don't let the people know what we're going to do out here. And we talked about rumble strips, but we got some kickback on some rumble strips we recently installed. So we're gonna probably put stop ahead on Harper, Peyton, all four ways, stop ahead side in the road. And that won't be, and go with rumble strips, it makes a noise, and that seems to kind of upset some people. So we kind of, Chad and myself, we talked about that. We're gonna just put stop ahead in the road itself, which would be good, and we'll have signs, stop ahead signs coming to a four-way stop. Shouldn't be no issues up there with that. Also, last month, Mr. Tyson wanted a report on a corridor study. Greg, myself, and Chad talked about that, and we did. I kind of pulled the reins back last year. We had Arno Road project going, and I wanted to complete that. I didn't want to start nothing else because of the pandemic. We didn't know which way, how it was going to affect us on a money-wise, and I just didn't want to get in no debt nowhere. I knew we had the Arnold Road project, and I wanted to finish that. And that project is completed. We just like some minor touch-up to do, some cleanup, but overall the pavement's complete. It's 2 AT&T poles still out in the road, but they are working on those. I hope they be gone in the next month. But and I'm going to turn this over to Chad now, but I just didn't want to start nothing else last year. I didn't know what the future held because of the pandemic, so I kind of just pulled back the reins on everything, minus Arnold Road. But I'll let Chad touch on what we got going on now.
Eddie, thank you very much. One other thing, I did speak to Ms. Calloway a couple days ago and got her some more information, but we have been back and forth a few times. We're moving forward with all that. As far as the Arnold project out at Page High School, we are, like Eddie said, getting really, really close. We've got just a little bit of work to do with those poles and clean that up. I do want to say that we are going to be under budget just a little bit, about $15,000 to $20,000. So we did come in under budget on the project, and we can move on to the next one. We have the plans are basically complete on the 840 in Arnold Road and the Highway 96 in Arnold Road. We're still waiting on just a little bit of information from the design consultants, and once we get that done, we should be able to submit for our TDOT permit. We have a couple of things. I've talked with Bobby the last day or two over email. He and I have a phone call scheduled for Friday to work out one more issue on the TDOT grading permit. But after that, we should be ready to go. And I think Mr. Hood's crew, the highway department, is going to start on the 840 project. We are going to have to bid the concrete portion of those ramps, but otherwise the highway department is going to complete all that work themselves. And again, we should start in the next, I'd say next month and a half, 2 months, hopefully. That's a little bit dependent upon TDOT, but otherwise we'll move forward with that. We are going to bid the 96 project with Arnold Road, and we do have quite a bit of right of way to acquire and utilities to be moved. So that's going to take, this one definitely going to take some time. The Arnold Paytonsville and Arnold South Carruthers project, as soon as we get started on the right of way and utilities up at 96, we're going to go ahead and do these concurrently. I'd like to have these ready to go when he gets done with the 840 project. That way he can just move up to these two intersection improvements, because the highway department plans to do that themselves as well. So hopefully we'll have all the right of way and utilities moved by the time the 840 project is complete. We do have the project at Linwood and Farmington basically complete. We need to get with some of the residents out there to talk with them a little more. Otherwise, it's about ready to go, and we've already contacted utilities on it. We have a little bit of right of way we've still got to acquire. And last, the only other project that we have on our list is the Coleman Road and Henpeck Lane there on Columbia Pike, just south of Franklin. We've talked about a couple of different funding sources. I think they contacted MPO and wasn't any funding available. We're now working, trying to get some answers back from TDOT under their safety program. I called and left a message yesterday, and Eddie's been in contact with some of the TDOT folks as well. We're trying to get them to go out and assess this site to see if it would qualify for some safety money. But otherwise, that's kind of where we are. We have put the brakes on for a while, but we've got several projects in the hopper, ready to get utilities and right away started. As soon as we get those guys out of the way, we can go to work.
Thank you, Chad. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is David. I don't know if this was on that list, but I didn't hear anything about Henpeck Lane. And first, I know COVID and all that, but this time last year, we said that the new light at Henpeck Lane would be in place by the time school started in the fall, and I guess that didn't happen. So I just wondered where we are on Henpeck Lane and 431.
Chad, you want to touch on that? We are, Mr. Coleman, they are, of course, the schools are going to pay for this light at Lewisburg, Pike, and Henpeck Lane. They, the way I understand, they have sent their proposal to TDOT for get their stamp of approval on this as well. But I'm hearing fall around November of this fiscal year. This year we in now, 2021. But they run into some hiccups last year. Yes, it was supposed to be up and operational in September or November last year. That did not happen. So they tell us now November, probably of this year when it will be up and running. But they got to do some more work to Lewisburg Pike, but it is supposed to, they, Chad can maybe touch on this too, but around November when it's supposed to be up and running, once they get the approval back, they can go to work.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, I saw the plans for the first time about a week ago. Eddie and I talked here last week, and he talked back with the schools folks. I suggested it come to highway, and I think he did too. I think it needs to come in front of this board and let you guys approve that, because it's a light that is going to have to be approved or going to have to be maintained by the county. So it will be on the list of the lights that the highway department have to maintain and pay for the maintenance of. So I suggested it come back to the highway commission in the next coming months. So I don't know where that stands. He may have some more information than I do, but we just saw the plans a couple of days ago. I
did talk to Kevin Fulton and told him that Monday, and told him he needs to get on the April Highway Board agenda for this. He said he would, so he will be with us next month.
You know, we had some calls on that last year, but I haven't heard anything recently, but I know they'll be calling if we don't see something happening for too long.
Oh, yes, I agree with that, but Kevin will be in front of us in April, and just to tell him what the light's going to be, and of course we'll maintain like these other we have now. He will be on board with us next April, this April.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Diane.
I was going to forward out to the highway commissioners. Commissioner Betsy Hester had emailed Superintendent Golden about that, the status of that light, and I will forward that to the members of the highway commission, what the superintendent had let them know.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Stan, did that answer some of your comments that Chad was
covering? Yes, sir, it did. I appreciate that very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Nina?
Yes. Along with our operating budget, we did have the capital budget requests, and I didn't know if you all wanted to review those and vote on them separately.
That's a good question. I mean, a good comment. We'll backtrack. Let me finish the questions to Chad, and then we'll go back to our capital side. Let Eddie talk about that. Any other questions to be directed to Chad in his report, or Eddie in the long range of our county highway department? Okay, I don't hear any. We will backtrack. Thank you very much for that, Nina. Eddie, you want to talk about your capital budget so we can go ahead and get that?
Yes, this is really, last year we didn't have a capital budget request. We did, but after the pandemic, we just didn't push it. So it's the same request, but we got the corridor study in here, and we got 3 dump trucks that we're going to look to replace, a wheel excavator, and a mini excavator. But they was on my capital for last year, so we just moved them up to this year. But that's it for the major corridor study, the 3 dump trucks, a wheel excavator, and a mini excavator.
Are there any questions about Eddie's and the highway department's capital budget?
Did they have a copy of that?
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept the capital request.
Motion so moved.
Thank you. Well,
Coleman, second.
thank you. We have a proper motion and seconded. Any other questions on the capital request, which, as you heard Eddie say, is basically what he had done last year. He just rolling things forward. Ready to vote, Mr. Coleman?
Coleman, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Tyson, yes.
Mr. Wilson
Wilson, yes.
and Mr. Davis.
Davis, yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. Let the records reflect on the capital budget. It passed 5-0. Bobby, what's next on the agenda, please?
Next item on the agenda we have is your report.
I have none. I've already given everything and appreciate the hard work that everybody did. Anything from legal? I know what the next one is.
No, Mr. Chairman, no legal issues at this time.
Thank you, Bobby. Any other items or comments that need to be made before we adjourn this morning?
Question, sir. Do we anticipate another meeting such as we're having now, or back in the, let's say, county?
Yeah, so great question. I should have mentioned that. The electronic meetings that Bobby read at the beginning of this meeting has been extended for 60 more days. It is also said in that electronic meeting that they are not planning on extending that electronic meeting past the April, I think it was 27th or 28th. Is that right, Bobby?
28th.
Yeah. So we will have meetings for next month for sure on the electronic side of it. But come May, we will need to plan, unless something happens that we do not know about. It has been indicated by the comptroller's office and by that this will be the last time that electronic meeting format is set up. We're hoping the legislators will see the wisdom of trying to figure out some of the things we can do. I know many of you have appreciated electronic meetings, and many of us have got a lot of extra work done. We don't have to travel, but by the same token, we need to get back together, and we will plan accordingly. And Eddie will still have to make some of the provisions in our meeting room to safely have a meeting with some social distancing, wearing masks. Even though the mask mandate has been lifted, all of the county buildings are still you're still required to wear masks and practice social distancing and washing your hands, staying 6 feet apart. So there'll be some changes that we will have to make unless the pandemic completely goes away. But for right now, we will have to space out a little bit more in our meeting room, and that'll be a challenge for Greg and Eddie and our property management to figure all that out. But we've got 60 days to do.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
I got a statement. Next week, we're going to go back on our 4 10-hour days starting March the 8th. So we'll start that next Monday.
That's good. Yes. Anything else? Well, again, we
Yes.
thank you. Was there a
Curious
comment?
question for Eddie on that one. That's the labor staff out there at the highway. Does the working staff in the building also include that? Or they included that?
No, so they still on 8-hour day. Well, Greg, we include on that, but Elaine and Art, they still here from 7 to 3:30.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Comments? So thank you again for being with us, and unless there's something else, we will adjourn this meeting, and y'all be safe out there. It's a pretty day. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Goodbye.
Bye.